So everybody understands assets, everything in an asset in the company. If not tracked, you write them off just to save yourself. That's the simplest thing, which a lot of people do. Anybody who is not familiar with this terminology, ROI, or anybody who is not evaluated on ROI in the organization, I would love to see that hand up. Everybody is saving their job to just make sure that the ROI is justified. And I don't need to elaborate what ROI means to all of us. And I have been fortunate enough, I start all my presentations with this. I have been super fortunate that my last name has ROI in it, right? So hereafter, whatever we talk about, whatever we discuss, the only focus is if in case this is proving to be good in terms of returns of investment, bingo. Otherwise, scrap it. Like Faraz said, that there's a huge problem between making directors and the top management understand why do I need to sign this off? Why? 50 billion, 10 billion, 5 million, or $20 million budget is being asked for. This is the answer, ROI. So Mike One Venture is a startup in IoT. We manufacture hardwares and solutions for multiple companies. And somebody asked a question in the morning that is Middle East seeing some IoT implementation? Yes, there are so many of them being done in different part of the region, from the banking to insurance to technology to transportation. Everybody is seeing that, they're piloting it. Banks are doing it. And some of our devices are being used in different companies and corporates where the POC is still in progress. So there is a terminology known as beacon technology. Before I get onto that, I just need to make it very clear. There is a difference between AI, virtual reality, data analytics, and IoT. They're different pillars. They're interrelated. There is a thin line between it. Everything produces data, but data is not equal to IoT. Data is not equal to artificial intelligence. Data is not equal to virtual reality. The IoT simple basic point is there are two devices. Can this device be connected to internet? Unless I give him an internet sensor, it cannot be. I'm a human being, I'm an assert. Do I have an internet receiver? No, I do not. Am I producing data or my smartphone is producing data? I am producing data, not my smartphone. That's my data which is going into smartphone and is predicted that is Gaurav. If my kid is using that smartphone, the data which is being put is by my kid, that's not Gaurav. Whereas whatever my car doesn't have a Bluetooth, doesn't have an internet, provided it doesn't have it, it is producing data. That's a device. How do I read it? How does Mitsubishi read it? That's what Internet of Devices is. Give internet or Bluetooth to anything, and then we know this is the data coming in from this reflector or this chandelier. So let's talk about that. So we developed a beacon in 2013 when Apple officially said, yes, you can talk to my device, you can talk to iOS. Then came in Google with Android, said, yes, with Eddystone, you can talk to my devices as well. Start pumping in data from different devices in Apple and iOS and Windows and so on, so on. So what is this all about? It's such a small device, as big as a matchbox. You go to Emirates NBD, you would see on every counter, there is a small box. I don't know about Oman, but yes, certainly in Dubai and UAE, there's a small box. How do they know how many customers are standing? How do they know who has to start the shift and who has to stop the shift? How do they know that how many coupons have been dispensed? How does Uber know where the traffic would flow in from? How does RTA knows how to send the driver in a particular direction that he would get business out of that place? Somebody is collecting that data from human beings. Having said that, most of our devices do not have internet. That's a task. How do I even calculate that data? If it is calculated, how do I pull it off? How do I pull off data from this microphone? Okay, which all industry is using IoT devices and beacons specifically? If I have missed any. Almost everybody. Because everybody has data. Have you ever seen such big billboards? And this is very common in the Middle Eastern region. Huge, 1.5 kilometer long billboard talking about a car being launched. How do you track how many people saw that billboard and finally went out to Ford or Chevrolet showroom and bought the car? How do you attribute that sale or purchase to that billboard so that the marketing guy can be congratulated or he can be asked to move on? That's the problem. So somebody said 50% of my marketing budget is wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. What to stop and what to continue. And you see a post on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere, and then you feel like I should go to that bakery and order the cake for myself. How should that baker attribute this sale to the Facebook post? And say, let me do more of it. Gaurav came and he bought the cake because he saw the post on Facebook, not somewhere else, not the flyer, not the pamphlet, not the billboard. That's the marriage between offline and online, which has been done with a lot of IoT devices. Same goes for the wells. Same goes for any industry you talk about. There is something which is running on its own, doesn't have the ears and eyes and mouth to talk and say, hey, my toaster, I'm in pain. Please, somebody come and rectify me. Give it some life, give it some device which can talk on behalf of that toaster or refrigerator and get me more data. Let's talk about it, how it is happening and what exactly we're talking about. Assets are the most important activities being, in any business you talk about, you have assets. Unless we have assets, our balance sheet will look like half empty, right? So there was a product which was developed in 2016 named Traco. It's a Romania-based company, and my company happens to be the distributor for them in the region as well as in India. What is Traco? The Traco is all the companies produce something, be it service, be it a hardware, be it a product or something, and that's stocked somewhere. That is stocked somewhere. Even the CD drive manufacturer or a pen drive manufacturer is manufacturing a device $1 each, stocking somewhere. If you ask the CEO, how many cars do you have parked in the warehouse? He would know that number. Yes, we manufacture about 100,000 units every day, and we sell about 50,000, so there is an inventory of 50,000 somewhere. Let me add to the complexity. Where is the car number 555, which was manufactured on 22nd of November, parked in the warehouse? Give me a couple of days. I will call a committee, and somebody will tell you about that. Really? We did that exercise in one of the vendors' place, and we said, can you let me know where is Toyota so-and-so model parked in the warehouse? I need 5 minutes, boss. And somebody went on a bike and said, hey, here it is. He took 5 minutes. And I did not think of adding more tasks to his list because he would have taken years, because that warehouse was about 50 to 60,000 square feet with more than 20,000 vehicles parked. What is happening? Why do you think asset tracking is needed? This is the data which has come from different reports. Number one, 27% of the report participants said they do 10 searches for their inventory in a day. This is fantastic when they say 64% of searches take them more than 30 minutes. Search means finding a particular asset in their office, in their warehouse, in their godowns, in their parking lots, wherever. 47% take more than an hour. 10% of companies have written off $437,000 on an average assets as lost assets. Last week I was in 7-Eleven, there were 4 guys. 7-Eleven is not that big outlet in most of the places, small outlet. 4 guys started at 8 in the evening. They said we will end up by 4 in the morning. They have to track the assets lying in the store. That's an audit process. 4 human beings for about 10 hours doing that just for a small store. Just imagine what is going to happen to a Lulu and a Carrefour. It's going to take them a couple of years. So we said, if in case I ask the same example, if in case I ask you vehicle number so-and-so being tracked in a parking lot, I'm challenged. I'm literally challenged. I can't even go to the Sheraton parking and find my car unless I know the pillar number. You parked my car, I can't find it. I just have to tick, 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 tick. That's what we do in the parking lots. So I have a small video
John
to
is the
play.
logistics manager at a utility vehicles manufacturer. Different types of utility vehicles leave the production line on a daily basis. I'm sure you know the feeling when you don't remember where you left your car in a big parking lot. John has to look after a couple hundred of utility vehicles. Finding vehicles when they need to be loaded for different shipments is a current problem for him as the logistics manager. John spends a considerable time in the parking lot trying to figure out which are the vehicles that are needed. Technologies like RFID come with a hassle in implementation. They increase costs and have a limited transmission range, typically a few meters. Luckily, John discovered the Onyx beacon solution. Deploying the beacons on the utility vehicles before they are taking them into the parking lot will allow John to easily track the vehicles. With the help of a mobile app on John's smartphone, beacons having a range of up to 50 to 60 meters, the vehicles can be easily found. Deploying beacons on fixed items in the parking lot will allow John to know when a vehicle is being moved, and he also will know its new position. With the help of the Onyx beacon solution, John is able to reduce costs and the time spent on locating items.
So that's what a beacon does. We used to use RFIDs. They need a scanner. Each scanner is about $2,000, $3,000 based on what frequency and what kind of product it is. We used to use GPS. We need a SIM card and all the GPS-enabled devices. Just imagine 50,000 or a million vehicles being produced by a company every day. No company is going to provide me with those many number of SIM cards just to track with no data and no calls being made on them. Finally came in the barcodes. Again, the same problem. How do I take that off? And somebody has to read them one by one, one by one. It's easier to read the number on the vehicle rather than scanning a barcode. And then you need a couple of people, right? And that's why most of our cars have those barcodes, because somebody read those barcodes and it was recorded, it's produced, it's sold, it's in the dealer's warehouse, and it's not getting sold, put an offer and just sell it off. To add to the complexity, this warehouse guy said, my problem is I have 50 units of same vehicle parked in the store. And if I say I need 5 units of that particular model, the guy who is picking it up, he has to read the manual and say, this was manufactured in August 2016. I need to sell it before I sell November 2017. And that's why we have to push off our inventory, which is not sold, because somebody forgot to take it out from the warehouse last year. Interesting. That cost is not calculated at all. That's why most of the time we see a 2017 model would be at a cheaper price in 2018, because not that they want to sell off the stuff, it's just somebody forgot it as well. So it's quick to find asserts with your beacons. It's quick. It's less human intensive. It is real time. Devices, be it without life or with life, without internet, are talking to you and letting you know that, yes, I am parked there, please pick me up and take me somewhere. Simple ring, if it's a device has a beacon and the entire place has a beacon. So both the things are talking, because my pillar cannot talk to my car. I need to give life to my car, I need to give life to my pillar. And then both of these devices are talking to my phone and my desktop and my laptop. Sitting anywhere in the world, I know what's happening in my warehouse. So I'm not getting into the depth of it. Who is using Traco right now? Automobile manufacturers, warehouse. I'll just give you some of the examples where we are doing the pilots, not in the region, maybe outside the region, but yes, these guys are actually seeing it. It's a dealership and warehousing. That's how a warehouse looks like. Couple of thousand vehicles parked, one next to the another. Models change, make change. We're working with one of the largest aircraft manufacturers, because each part which is put into the aircraft is stocked somewhere. And most of the companies, just to save cost, work with a model of just in time. They don't even know when the units will be over, and they need to refill them. And for an aircraft, we all know the parts are pretty big. They need to be tracked from one place to another. You don't even know how big the warehouse for an aircraft manufacturing company would look like. Couple of millions of thousands in square feet. Manufacturing material, shields and the pipes and everything, they get lost. You can't even figure out where is pipe number 55, which was bought a couple of months back, which is where is this parked? You need to bank on the lowest leaf level people in the organization to figure out how many units I have. That's the problem. Warehousing pallets. What's in this pallet? I don't know unless I open it. And if in case my shift changes, I'm very sure Philip can't figure it out unless he opens it. If I have parked that pallet, unless he reads the entire document, that this pallet has 50 iPhone devices which were bought on so-and-so date, he can't figure that out. Or a maintenance service. How many of them are new vehicles? How many of them have been rectified? What's happening? Issue. Okay. Our employees are assets. How many of you believe employees are our assets? Very useful assets. And most of us have RFID cards which we have to punch every day in and out to make sure our attendance is marked and we are paid a salary, right? Even in education, I have to say present sir, present ma'am to make sure that my attendance is marked and a letter is not sent to my parents saying, hey, Gaurav was never in the school or the university, right? And then comes into the practice of proxies. Maybe somebody else can mark an attendance for me in the university. Or how do I track after punching my card? Did I enter inside the office? Was I sitting in the cafeteria? Or I was in the washroom for about 5 hours? Was I really working? One of the IT companies, the large IT companies, I would not name them, maybe the data is available online. They said, we will evaluate people on the number of hours their car is parked in the parking lots. That means that they're in the office. Very good. I park my car. I take a taxi. Thank you so much. Then they said, we will do it on the basis of how many lines of code you write. Okay, I need to go from this block to that block. There are a million ways to go. I can get down, take a round of entire Sheraton, and come over there. The code was literally going for a toss. One line converted into a million lines because this guy had to prove that he worked for 5 hours. And this is a live example of Saudi municipality. Just to make sure that they're keeping a track of their employees, they said people have to punch their attendance 5 times a day. You can read Gulf News and Khalij and everywhere. This was where employees retaliated. Like, why do we need to punch 5 times? Because every time you go out of prayer, we don't know whether you come back or not. Wow. Really? So we started working with some of the companies and we said that every employee has a smart device. Everybody has it. I can give my card to somebody else and please mark my attendance. I can even give my thumb and say, please mark my attendance, but I will never give my phone and say, please mark my attendance. That's the last thing anybody will do, to give his personal phone and say, hey, Philip, can you take my phone to the office to mark my attendance? Better they mark me absent. I don't want you to read all the messages which I get, right? So we are just evaluating, get rid of all these biometrics and get rid of all the cards and say, can my mobile device and Deacon talk and figure out where Gaurav is, how much time is he spending in cafeteria versus washroom versus workplace versus meeting rooms? What is he doing in real time? In the university, am I in the lecture theater or I'm just roaming around and saying 15 minutes before the attendance is marked, I will enter and say I was present for entire 2 hours. Okay, that's the real-time IoT. Human beings have to talk. And this is known as ethical tracking. You're tracking people because you're incentivizing, you're paying them, they are being paid for the hours they have to spend in the organization. Now, if IoT is a buzzword, this is the latest, if you search for the word IoT, there are about 9.2 million results on Google talking about IoT. It's enough content for anybody to get graduate degree or postgraduate degree in IoT. But the challenge is, how many of us sitting over here in the room are literally implementing IoT in the organization? Very few. Very few. What's the challenge? Where are we stuck then? What's the problem? We would have met a lot of companies, their top, their IT, their sales, their finance, and everybody, because it's a collective decision. It's not a single person. It's not the IT head would go and say, hey, I want to go IoT direction. or the director comes and says, let's go for IoT tomorrow. Doesn't gonna happen. Similarly, like 5 to 10 years, that's a strategy. The biggest problem in most of the organizations is just don't speak, just think. Do two departments in the organization have very healthy relation? And when I say two departments, it's sales and marketing, operations and sales, productions and operations, and then the supply chain. What kind of fight do we have between departments? And considering it is quarter end, it's month end, and targets have fallen down. Okay, so where are we stuck? The basic problem, everybody wants to do it, but nobody knows where to start from. This is what exactly happened about the word innovation. When people started talking about innovation in early 2003 and 4, automatically there were about 250 books written on the title having the word innovation. And there were quarterly, annual, and monthly annual reports which had the word 33,528 times written in it. Innovation. Because the CEO comes and says, let's innovate. What do you do then? What do you do? Should I change the carpet? Chandelier? What do I do as an innovation? IoT. What do I do in IoT? Nobody knows. So we figured that out because when we were selling these devices, we were pitching the companies, we had to evaluate their strategy and even understand the business. I don't know how the oil business works. I have not seen an oil well ever. How can I give an IoT strategy to them? I can't. I've seen warehouses, I know how they work. So what we started doing was we started with the gap analysis. There are 3 main gaps which exist in any organization when it comes to rather any transformation, but I am putting it across an IoT. Culture and organizational change. People are not comfortable with change. 2, IoT project takes longer than anticipated. Nobody knows how much time will it take, what kind of investments would go in. You can only anticipate. By the time your project is approved, maybe the technology is changed. There's a better version developed by Cisco or somebody else. And the last one is, nobody knows. Who will be responsible in the organization? Who has the right skills to see those 2 or 5 or 10 vendors and make sure the KPIs and the KRAs are set properly? If I'm the vendor, I'm setting my own KRAs, you know what I'm doing, right? So we started with a different venture altogether, and we started from the States, and we got it to this region because people said that every time I have an idea, I'm in trouble. I take it to my management, and the first task which I'm given is, can you get us a feasibility report for this? And then I have to attend 1 million seminars, read 50,000 reports, get in 20,000 vendors, and finally sit in the meeting room and listen to what? We will do it next year. So we started with the academy, wherein we started providing these workshops as well as these discovery platform for organizations, and it has been a pretty successful thing for us because before people buy anything or they just think IoT, they need to know what IoT is and how it is fitting into their organization. And it's a organization-wide decision. It's not a single person. It's not IT department, for sure, right? So the data which we pulled from Forbes and other places, 6 trillion would be spent on IoT in next 5 years as Business Insiders. Average salary of an IoT architect who is designing the structure for the organization is about 179,000 US dollars. Plus, there are 4.2 million IoT developer jobs which will be created by 2020. No university, no institution, nobody on the planet is actually teaching IoT. They're teaching like what to do. There are reports which are being published by Gartners of the world. Today only I got a report which was like healthcare Gartner IoT report talking about the entire healthcare industry in the world. But what do I do in my organization? I'm a hospital with 20 chains, 20 hospitals, that's it. I can't compete with the billion-dollar industry. So we're doing these workshops with a lot of companies and we find it pretty successful. The answer is not that I need to know what do I need to do. If in case I can get the answer, IoT is not for me, that's an answer. You will be at least on a side that, yes, this big elephant is not for me right now. And I will come to this point after 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, once I see X amount of data or I see Y number of transactions happening on my platform, right? So my submission is, it sounds fancy, it sounds good, everybody is talking about it, but as a company, as an individual, we need to figure out, are we ready? And ready for what? And on what terms? These are the three main takeaways. If in case we are not ready to compromise on either, I'm just going to mention three things. These are applicable in anybody's life, profession, business, career, everywhere. Good, cheap, fast. At any given in time, you can pick two. That's it. It can be good and cheap, it will not be fast. If it is cheap and fast, it will not be good. So on. Thinking of getting all three at the same place, it will never happen. So if in case you want to implement IoT and you want it to be very good, there is a cost to it. If in case you have the time on the planet to spend and wait, it can be cheaper, because going forward, the technology devices and solutions and the open source would become even cheaper. The human resource would be cheaper as compared to what it is right now. Wait. And if in case you're ready to compromise on the quality, which I'm very sure none of us would be, then you can simply go ahead for cheap and good. Don't expect the solution to last for a couple of years or for a decade or something, right? So he just said, last 1 minute left for you. Thank you so much, guys. Any question? I'm here.
Actually, we're talking about vehicles. And I was studying at the University of Leeds, and last year they start registering our attendance using the mobile app and the vehicles, like in lecture theaters and labs. So some students, they get around this by giving their phones or their access to the portal to the other students. So there is ways to get around these technologies.
Right.
How do you see it in the future? Like, is it going to be like to implement these technologies maybe in human themselves, or to get rid from device to device connection?
Right.
I mean,
so there is always a crack for any solution or any technology. It's like policing and the thief. So students came up with this, that they can have two phones. One is my personal and one is just for attendance, and I can give it to you. And then we started adding biometric login. So if within your phone, just like your iTouch or something, unless you log into the app, you will not give your thumb and phone both. You will give one at a time, right? So and then we also said only one device which is registered with the registrar or the office school authorities would be allowed to download the app. It's not an open app, it is access-based app. So if in case I'm a student for a university, I can only download that app once in my phone. Tomorrow I buy a new one, I need to go back to my registrar and say, hey, please register my new device and uncheck the old one. So these are manual checks, but yes, it is the learning stage right now. We are also understanding what all issues would pop up and what to come up with as a solution.
When you talked about the beacon technology, so when there is the interconnection of the Bluetooth devices, how about the traffic? How traffic is taken, because the Bluetooth is not having more than 8 connections.
Right. So it is a Bluetooth driven, which has to have a clear vision of about 50 meters. Number two, companies have also started developing Wi-Fi based beacons. And very soon, this is a question to be asked by all of us, why do we have two connectivity routers in our phone, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, right? So if you read about it, Bluetooth technology was last updated about 10 years ago. Nobody has talked about Bluetooth after that, but now the companies are saying, can we get rid of Bluetooth and say two Wi-Fi, or can we get rid of Wi-Fi and say two Bluetooth in my phone? Because one Bluetooth can connect to 10 devices, your watch, your speaker, and so on. Why do I need Wi-Fi? Can my internet work on Bluetooth, if in case the range is improved? So that's a very good question. Big companies, I would say the multinationals of the world, they are talking about it and trying to make sure that the range for a Bluetooth, which is right now 50 meters and can be objected because of any wall or something, is taken care of. Great, guys. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.